I mean, it's obvious that there would be something that they really have to be scared about before something happens.
I think that's right.
And if and when white people wake up to the dangers that you describe in the many articles in the Occidental Observer, which is also meant to be a more public way of, or a more, you say, down-to-earth way of describing all these problems. If the white people, and when we must say when they wake up, could you think of some place geographically that might start off? Could it be the United States, Russia with its reservoir of white people, or might it be Germany again?
I'm very hopeful that it will happen in Europe. I have no hope for America. Like I say, in Europe, they're far more advanced in terms of having political parties that are explicitly anti-immigration. Geert Wilders, for example, there's a lot of things about Geert Wilders that I would disagree with, but he's very strong. He wants to ban the Koran and so on. That's the kind of thing that's completely missing in America. We don't have any political party. They're getting on 20% of the vote. In America, it would be minuscule, way less than 1%. So I'm hoping that Europe, that one of these parties will succeed. And if one succeeds and can stay in power for a while and can really make a difference, I think people will see it as a model and will see it as something to be emulated. It will have a big influence. So I'm hoping that one of these parties will break through. People are talking about Marine Le Pen in France as possibly being the next president. Geert Wilders, there's a movement, as you know, there's movements in all these countries. So I'm hopeful that if one breaks through, it would lead to a wildfire. Because I think that when it starts, it will go very quickly. Things will change rapidly because most people in their gut know something is wrong with this current situation. They know that Muslims really aren't the same as we are. That they and bringing up millions of black Africans into Europe just is not going to work. That this is just going to be a disaster.
We took out our grandfather or even our father and presented the situation today, saying this is how you have to behave today. He would fall dead.
People have often said it about the British that if the people who had fought Germany in World War II knew what this was going to lead to, they would never have given their lives to fight Hitler.
No, it's really it's wild that what's happening. But I was thinking in Russia, they have this memory of the Bolshevism, of the communists. That might be a reservoir of, I would say, knowledge and also racial feelings that might be tapped. Also, you could think of Germany as a place where they say, okay, we have to be very sorry about all this with the Jews, but we don't want to be annihilated.
Right.
Could be places like that, I thought.
It could well be. I mean, at some point the Germans are going to get over apologizing and sort of asking why they did this. And, it's not because of some wildly irrational feelings that they had. They had thought it out, I think. And there's just no question that understanding what happened in the Soviet Union, understanding the mass murders of the early part of the 20th century was a big part of the impetus for National Socialism, and I think understanding those events will, I think that is one intellectual route to this. Yes, absolutely.
Well, you're also advancing the work of Solzhenitsyn, I know, the translation of that into English, maybe other language later as well, because the Jews are not helping us with that.
They're not, and in America that has not been translated into English. All his other works have been translated, but not 200 years together. It is an excellent book. It's far better than I have seen reviewed. If you go into it, he's very subtle and he's very well documented and well balanced. But he very clearly shows that Jews were a very big part of the Soviet elite, and that they retained this hostility towards ethnic Russians that colored all their actions for all those years. So I think it's a very powerful book in the end. I'm hoping that it will be well. It has been mostly translated now into English by a sort of bootleg kind of situation. It's not approved and so on. But these people got frustrated because it simply wasn't coming out in a major by a major publisher. So they put it out. It's a very good book. Very good book.
We're looking forward to that. So it's obvious to me and probably many others that we're looking for and waiting for and working for a breakthrough in these totally upside down logics and situations. And you as a psychologist must sometimes almost burn your fuses to think of these totally upside down logics. Yeah. Must be so weird.
It's very
also,
difficult.
Trying to get into the Jewish mindset, why they're doing this is one thing, but also getting into the white mindset is quite something.
Well, it's one of those things where you really want to try to understand what's going on in white people's minds, because they're not forcing us at this point. A lot of it is simply propaganda and our own self-conceptions that we get out of the media and the academic world. I mean, right now in America, the public education system, from kindergarten all the way through college, is basically one long indoctrination. They have courses in the Holocaust and ethnic understanding and civil rights movement and all this stuff all the way through school now. And so children are being brainwashed in a way that it does make it difficult, but I do think that in their heart, in their gut, they're going to understand that this is not good for them, that something has gone very wrong with our culture.
Mm-hmm. So obviously we cannot advocate violent uprisings like in the Muslim countries,
no.
And it would not be very nice for ourselves probably. But do you deep down expect this whole development to become rather bloody in the end? Because we haven't seen in history things. Well, we've seen these velvet revolutions that we could hope for. Do you think that could be a scenario?
I do think that violence could be a scenario.
No, also, I mean, the velvet revolution, where nothing big happens except we get rid of the Jewish supremacists. And so
on. Well, but the problem would be that, like in America, you have 100 million non-whites, and so even if whites got conscious, they'd still have to deal with 100 million non-whites. What do you do? And they're not all going to voluntarily go back to where they came from. And the same is true in Europe. So at some point, it could very well be that there's going to be violence. I mean, ethnic violence has been going on for centuries. We shouldn't think it's unusual, and because ethnic groups have different interests. And some ethnic groups breed faster than others. They have more children. They will take over in the long run if something is not done. So I think that has to be in the back of our mind. Very famous speech in England, Enoch Powell talked about rivers of blood, famously. And I shouldn't think we can rule that out. We cannot rule that out.
Just one last question. The subject of eugenics has been out before, and today you have the DNA and all the gene science of genetics, but the subject was sort of killed even before World War II, but certainly by World War II with Hitler's various policies. But does it have some sense today, and do you think it could ever be discussed again, be used again? And what's your thought on that?
Well, it's going to be very difficult because I just reviewed a book, and the point of the book was to show that at this stage, the whole idea of eugenics is associated as causing the Holocaust. I mean, this is the standard view now. Not just that eugenics is bad or racist or something, that eugenics caused the Holocaust. Now, there's absolutely no support for this. None. This is a book by John Glad. It's called Jewish Eugenics. Just came out. And he shows that. So eugenics is now relegated to the lowest rung of intellectual hell, I guess. It's like everything else. It's going to be very difficult to resurrect it. You're going to have to go against all the forces of the media and the academic world. And yet, I was very encouraged by Helmut Nyborg's paper that came out recently in a very respectable academic journal, Personality and Individual Differences, talking about eugenics and talking about dysgenics, that populations, that their IQ populations will decline over time unless something is done. We have to have ways of encouraging smarter people to have children. We have to have ways of discouraging people who are mentally retarded and the very low range from having children. And we have to prevent immigration of low IQ groups. And that's his whole point, that the decline of Danish IQ is going to be greatly speeded up by importing all these Middle Easterners with IQs of 86 or something like that.
So the least eugenic measures you could do is stop the import of
that is the first step. Yeah, I mean, but it's silly to think that importing millions of low IQ Middle Easterners is going to be a benefit to Denmark. It's insane.
What would you think? Would you think that maybe the most humanitarian foreign aid you could do to Africa would be to send condoms, or you think that's going too far?
That would be. I mean, I just read something that the birth rate in Africa is skyrocketing.
And they come here afterwards.
Yeah. And so then they're overpopulated, and then they have wars, so then they have displaced people who are refugees. And American refugee policy is to admit at least 50,000. I think it's 100. I don't know how many, but it's many thousands. At least 50,000, probably 100,000 refugees per year. Well, there's always a war somewhere where there's going to be, civilian casualties. So all those people then come to America, and they bring, Somalia, Ethiopia, the Congo, wherever, and then those people would be eligible to bring their families in the long run. So it becomes a colonization disaster.
Yeah. Dr. MacDonald, I think we covered quite a lot of subjects, and I look very much forward to listening to your lecture tomorrow, even if I've read your book, but it's always something else to get it from the person himself.
Right.
So thanks very much for joining me.
Okay, thank you.